what are these? Are they even real? I guess we'll find out. Welcome back to Tales. My name is Fumi. In today's episode, I will go into the National Museum here in Lagos to learn more about the culture and the life cycle of humans and how it affects us as Africans, particularly Nigerians. Inside the National Museum is an art gallery like no other. Once you walk into this place, you find the hairs on your skin begin to stand. Perhaps it's a function of the working air condition, which leaves this place very cold, or the artifacts, which are very old. It is very somber. The gallery takes us through the life cycle of man here in Nigeria as it was back in the days and perhaps even in the present, from fertility, birth, death, and even the afterlife. Now this section is for the fertility and what people had to do before they could bring forth a child. They would have to consult the Ifa priest. Now all of this are pretty much traditional. You would see different things like when the baby comes forth and how we celebrate or welcome the birth of a child. You would also see figurines and how people would worship different deities that they're accustomed to according to their culture in this video. Now this pretty much talks about more on the different tribes we have here in Nigeria, the Yoruba, the Hausa, and the Igbo tribe. So this particular side of the gallery shows us the rites a person has to go through to become a chief or an elder statesman. So there's certain things the person has to have, and there are probably certain gods that the person has to appease to in certain tribes to be able to get to this position through their life. It also talks about the rights of the ancestorship. The fact that many people have gone before us is not enough to forget who they were in their life and even in their afterlife. You find a lot of these artworks are sort of made out of clay and some are made out of animal shells. Nothing is thrown away. Almost everything is useful in one shape or form. This particular art symbolizes what is worn on the head. The head is regarded as the most important part of the human body. And that is why you see some people say, "Do not touch my head. I've been warned not to allow anyone touch my head, for there flows the wisdom of life." Now this section takes us through what it means to be an adult and also the different rites someone would have to go through in terms of ceremonies in becoming an adult. As we all know, being an adult comes with different types of responsibilities. You want to be in governance, you want to be in power, you want to settle down and have a child and get married. You also want to build houses. So you find different types of household utensils that were used back in the day and how the settlements, the houses were constructed. In those days, almost every household had a god or a figurine that they would either put inside their house or in front of their house as a way of protection and worship. Being an adult also comes with marriage. So this place takes us through the rites of passage for those that would want to get married and also those that would want to be in government positions, and some of the figurines that were very, very important depending on where you come from in Nigeria. This particular hut is meant to depict the Yoruba people. You can already see the Yoruba hut and the types of clothes on the floor and also the figurine just outside the door. All of these figurines date back to many, many decades and years ago, and you can appreciate the craftsmanship. Most of the people who worked on these subjects never went to school or had a formal training, but passed it down generation to generation. And this is now what forms the National Museum here in Lagos. And you can find this not just in Lagos, but I'm sure in many other museums across the country. This section shows what Nigerians used in entertainment in the days. They had the popular talking drums, you had the shekere, you had different types of things that were made using hand, beads, brass, and different types of things. These are things that hunters would wear before they go into the farm to hunt. And this obviously is a gun which hunters would use as well to hunt for animals to kill, to bring back food for their families. Interesting. Now, having gone through that stage of life, there's another stage that is very constant, which is death, burial, and funeral. Africans believe that death is only a transition to another life. And so in this section of the museum, you find different things that sort of portray this transition. Now, I must warn you, if you do not have the heart or the mind to accommodate some of the visuals here, it might be a good way to just cover your eyes, because some of the figurines here can be very, very thought-provoking and also a little bit So this part of the art gallery shows what different tribes in Nigeria are accustomed to in terms of the figurines you find during funeral rites, and for those that believe in the afterlife, the figurines that ancestors and spirits often come through. So whenever you see a masquerade out, because masquerades are actually believed to be spirits and not humans, even though they actually wear a costume. So these are some of the figurines you'd find, or even masquerade looking like sort of costume during these sort of festivities in some parts. Now, this is actually a bronze head from Ile-Ife. It is meant to be the head of the king at the time. Now, a quick story. In 1938, when the colonialists were here in Nigeria, they discovered some of these artworks, particularly bronze artworks, and they were taken away to other museums of the world. And Nigeria right now is currently clamoring for the return of these items. Now, these are the figurines that are often depicted for reincarnation in different tribes here in Nigeria. You find for the Yoruba, the southwestern, the Yoruba people, this particular figurine depicts the reincarnation for the Yoruba people. It's like a life-size human being of some sort, and was a little bit scary at the time of filming. But I knew I just had to capture this for documentation's sake. If you're from this part of the country, do you have any idea what these figurines are for? And if you're from a family that believes in these types of practices, what are these used for? It would be nice to know in the comments. In the Yoruba culture, for instance, we believe in the afterlife for a twin. So where you have a passing twin, there's oftentimes what is called ere ibeji. So the passed on twin has to be well dressed and oiled at night so that it doesn't affect the surviving twin. Now, what are your thoughts on this very thought-provoking episode? I'll tell you mine. Nigeria is a highly religious country practicing Islam, Christianity, and traditional forms of worship. But more often than not, we fail to capture how people lived back in the time and often consider these practices as voodoo. What do you think?